Hello, and in today's video we're going to be looking at Heroquest. Now this is the original edition, which was for people aged 9 to adult, 2 to 5. It's the classic Games Workshop MB Games collaboration. Now unfortunately this was becoming very expensive and hard to find, and I've only got the base set of the original edition because some of the expansions were ridiculously expensive, and this cover is absolutely iconic. And of course this game is becoming extremely meme-worthy because of the Bardic video with the best possible thing about Heroquest, which is excellent and you should go see it. However, Hasbro did a sort of online sort of Kickstarter for the new version, which as you can see has a homage to the original. However, the box is considerably more girthy, although it's not quite as big. And of course the great thing about this being re-released is lots of, the new generation of players will get to experience the light-hearted fun of Heroquest. Unfortunately it has lost the GW licensing, so some of the miniatures have changed. So for example we've got a female elf, we've got slightly different goblins, the femurs and trolls and things will be a bit different, as will the Chaos Knights and the Sorcerer. But it's essentially the same game, and what's really good of course is the expansions are now available, which means I can actually get a complete collection at a semi-reasonable price. It is still a bit expensive. The silhouettes of the players is still similar to the original, and obviously they're in red plastic. You've then got green and white and grey. Still not 100% convinced by the gargoyle. The artwork, unfortunately you've lost some of the lovely old-fashioned look from the original cards. The 3D furniture is now actually 3D rather than card, which I actually think is an improvement. And the board apparently is slightly larger when you fold it out. And the contents is pretty good. So, you've got 31 monsters, 4 heroes, 15 furnitures, and then a load of random skull and rat pieces, which you're probably going to have to glue on because apparently you don't have the little holes to slide things in, and then you've got all the other bits and pieces. And yeah, it looks like a pretty good game, although for some reason they've decided this is now for ages 14 and up. But, c'est la vie. Now upon opening the box you're treated to a lovely copy of the cover art, which is actually a box containing a load of miniatures. You then get another copy of the box art, which is all the furniture. We've then got the screen and the punch boards for the overlays, fairly nicely wrapped. We've then got the board itself, which is a lovely clean looking board, and that is pretty much it. Now unfortunately when it actually comes to storing this, I think the storage solution they've built has got a lot of criticism for sort of potentially damaging the figures. So yeah, when you look, you've got this nice bit that holds it in, and probably for the furniture it's not so bad. But for the minis, apparently this plastic can be a little bit restrictive. So there are some foam options, for example this Feldher, and I've actually bought this. So in theory I should be able to get the core game, Keller's Keep and Return of the Witchlord all in the base set. And obviously if you back to the mythic tier, there's different solutions. So this is like a proposed layout for how you can store your game, and in theory it would all go back in the box, although the lid might stand a bit higher. Now the problem with that of course is, what do you do with these lovely plastic trays with this lovely artwork? But it does allow you to get everything in the core box, including potentially sleeving your cards. Now having extracted the lid, as you can see you've got the miniatures. So the gargoyle, he's not held in particularly well. It's an alright miniature. It suffers from the same problem as the original, that it's sort of a very flat mini. And as you can see, these are all coming in and out quite nicely. Now I believe, because this is a later printing, it's possible they might have fixed some of this plastic insert, so these actually do drop in and out pretty nicely. And a lot of the earlier problems about the minis getting distorted and all that is not such a big deal. The dice, yeah, they come in and out nicely. So it looks like they have reformed this plastic tray, because I was expecting a lot more trouble getting these in and out. I've heard of like weapons being distorted and it holding it badly. Now, if you're a fan of the original game, these are the females. They're now sort of like Deep One figures. So yeah, they're really nice. Yeah, the minis do suffer from what I would call modern super realistic. Yeah, there you go. There's a weapon slightly distorted, but it's not too bad actually. I'm amazed how slight the female elf is. But yeah, what I do worry about is once I've punched everything out and got the cards all sorted, which I do need to find where the cards are, how's it all going to go back in the box? Now, I presume the cards are in the other tray, so let's have a look at that. Now, this tray is a lot heavier. It includes the random skulls. The 3D furniture is really nice and really evokes the originals, and you know, will actually save me the hassle of 3D printing some of these. Now, for example, I did actually 3D print some of these for my base set, and I did it in resin, and unfortunately for whatever reasons the prints didn't quite work. Oh dear, the rats are escaping. As you can see, they're just loose. But yeah, the chests, really detailed, and I'd imagine this stuff would paint up reasonably well. It is a softish sort of PVC, so not sure how well the paint would hold, and as a board game I'm tempted to leave it. Sadly, the customization you could do with the original set is not possible with this. It's all sort of pre-formed, but yeah, really good detail. And then of course you've got your open doors and your closed doors. Now, it would be nice to have a few more closed doors. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, by the looks of it. Only 5, and then loads of open doors. We've got quite a few character sheet pads. Then, of course, all the cards. Although if you were to sleeve these, they definitely wouldn't fit back in here. So if you're not into sleeving, not a problem. If you are, then this vacuum pack I think is going to be really tricky to use. But yeah, really nice features. The tables look a little bit bent, but not, well, maybe not so bad actually. Just looked a bit bent from a distance, and the throne much better than the paper one. The paper one used to have a bar across the bottom here, and I think that's broken on my original set. The rats, yeah, I can easily see them getting lost along with the skulls, but you know, if you want to, in theory, you could glue them on top of here, but then again, the problem with the vacuum foam is it's not going to go in. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by the vacuum foam actually. I had read all sorts of nightmares, but this definitely isn't an unworkable setup, and it just clicks on nicely and should in theory hold it, although yeah, over here it's a bit bouncy, and that's what's probably allowing the rats to escape. So there you go, there is that. Now obviously I'm not going to bother getting the board out. If you know Heroquest, you know the board, but the punch tiles could be a little bit thicker, but not terribly problematic. So we've got some stairs, some stone, I've forgotten what that token does now, your skulls, some rubble, and then on the opposite side you've got slightly different look, including secret doors. And yeah, it's a decent punch board. Could be worse, could be better. The quest book, there you go, in a sort of landscape format, whereas the rule book is in portrait, which I guess seems a little bit odd considering the quest book is landscape, but you know, maybe it's not a big deal. And then some nice artwork on the back. It's pretty slim, 22-ish pages. Yeah, 23 if you want to write some notes. And, you know, if you're new, how do you start? Glimpse into the world. So obviously they've had to create their own new setting because it's no longer sort of GW old world adjacent. How to set up your quests. The actions, so you can attack, cast a spell, search for treasure, search for secret doors, search for traps, disarm a trap. So yeah, that's pretty easy. What the evil sorcerer Zargon does on their turn, so monster movement, actions, attack, cast a spell, dead heroes, what happens if you run out of monsters, and ending the quest. So pretty good. And then little key for what you need to worry about. Obviously mentor is the person who helps walk you through, so welcome, what's unique, game contents, getting started, so on and so forth. Yeah, looks pretty good. And then the board, obviously top secret, look away now, if you're a hero you shouldn't know any of this. So the heroes, the monsters, summary chart, combat, and that's pretty sturdy. I think that's going to stand up nicely. Yeah, it's a nice thing. Yeah, as I say, my only regret is that the punch board could be slightly more, shall we say, Euro board game thickness, a bit more chunky, but I suppose the disadvantage of that is then, you know, standing miniatures on these tiles would, you know, they'd wobble a bit. Now, I've broken out the cards here, so we've got treasure that you can find, equipment, artifacts, some monster summaries, some hero summaries, which are not quite as nice as the original game that had bigger format actually, but all the cards are now poker size, which I prefer because the original had small cards. And you've got dread spells, water spells, earth spells, fire spells, and air spells. And this is where the game could potentially expand, because, you know, there's only 3 fire spells, which are pretty cool. So we've got Ball of Flame, Courage, and Fire of Wrath, and I could see lots of potential to add cards. And the artwork I think is pretty cool on these, although it's got this weird linen print which I know a lot of people love, but I actually prefer smoother, because I think it looks better. It doesn't wear so much when you're shuffling for me, but of course I'm probably going to end up sleeving these, which means all this lovely plastic tray is going to have to be ditched for that Feldher foam. So that's going to be my next project, so hopefully I can have a look at the foam now. Now, as you can see, this is the foam. We've got 1, 2, 3 trays with 1, 2, 3, 4, including the thin sort of toppers. But if you actually look at the box that the game comes in, spot the problem. It's going to be raised quite a bit. And I believe the idea is you put these thin trays in between each layer to separate things out. And if we actually look inside, so we've got a nice bit of plastic here with all the slots for everything. So what I'm going to have to do is transfer everything into this solution using this layout. Well, as you can see, I've got most of the things in. So this tray is pretty full. There's this slot free here. This tray is also duplicated, I guess, for the expansions, and then all the furniture's gone in here. And what is quite nice, you've got the closed doors up the top here, whereas the sealed doors are down at the bottom. So open door, and it's a nice soft foam, so it's easy to get stuff in and out. The downside is obviously there's a lot of loose space for things to rattle around, which is why you are going to need those little sliders. I've put all the spare bits in there, and I'm going to punch out stuff. And you know, despite saying it could do with being a little bit thicker, it's pretty decent punch board. Punches pretty cleanly, so fairly happy with that. So I'm just going to finish that off, and then I'm going to have a look at the expansions and how easy they're going to be to get in here. Now, what's odd, it doesn't actually show you where to put the character sheets, so I'm assuming you can put them in this slot that just happens to be just the right size. So it's a little bit of a gaff there that on here it doesn't have maybe like a character sheet saying store it in here. Okay, well, I'm looking here at the base of the boxes. So F4193, F4193. So the Witch Lord is these cards, and this is Keller's Keep, and you can use the reference number at the bottom. So if you ever want to split this back, you know, into its boxes, you know how to do that. Now, if you're wondering what you get in the expansion, so you get a sort of stony door and a wooden door. The Witch Lord, you get loads of undead. Keller's Keep, you get loads of green guys, so your orcs and your sort of fish mini. And they are exactly the same sculpts as far as I can see as what you get in the base set. So you're not getting anything new. I believe about the only thing that is new is this new door and the fact that you've got a fancy wooden sealed door. Now again, sadly, you're only getting black back tokens, but you get some nice tokens, so tombstones, this circular large room, and this big throne room. Again, wasted opportunity with a black back. They really should have considered printing something on there, just for extra utility, really. So to store the doors, I've put the stone doors here underneath the sort of deep ones and above the Chaos Knights and the Barbarian. And then the wooden doors, I've just sort of slotted in this edge here. So that's the 2 trays sorted. So all of these minis that are still left in the box, they're going in the 3rd tray. And there we have it. It's all in. So the base set, the 2 expansions with the rather odd, almost like elastic band in your box together. I guess over time the sponge will crush down a bit, but there's not much of a gap, and as you can see, it's made the box much taller. In fact, if you actually look, it's almost taller than keeping everything separate. So if the trays in here, in these expansions, was a bit better, and if this tray allowed for sleeve cards, I would say don't bother with the foam. The fact that I like to sleeve my cards mean these plastic trays are no good, because as soon as I sleeve the cards, they're not going to fit in here. My only concern is, if I do sleeve the cards, that's normally going to double the thickness, and currently the arrangement I've got in the foam could get a little bit tight. So even the foam's not perfect. But yeah, the 2 big downsides of the foam, obviously it's an extra expense. It makes your box rather ridiculously thick. And of course, it doesn't actually keep the miniatures sealed in place quite as effectively as maybe the new vacuum pack does. And then of course, what am I going to do with these extra boxes? Do I bin them? Do I keep them? I'm probably going to keep them, but that means I'm now creating extra mess. So there's pros and cons. And of course, I haven't even got to the big box expansions. So these are the little box expansions, but there are also extra ones out now. I actually do have them off camera, but I'll probably save those for a separate video. I'm going to wrap up this video. So I've left the storage solution on top with the rulebook, the screen, the map on the very top. I've then got the thin sheet of plastic protecting some tiles with the expansion quest packs on top. So there's my thin tiles. They might end up on the bottom of the box. I've then got all the expansion figures, and I've got to be a bit careful moving these because they go flying everywhere if I'm not careful. I've then got the core box figures with the expansion doors double stacked. And then right at the bottom, I've got the character sheets. I've actually slightly rejigged this and chucked all the skulls and rats just on top here. But you probably saw that earlier. And as I say, I'm a little bit worried about sleeving the cards and how high they're going to get. But yeah, overall, pretty happy with that. Hopefully you've enjoyed that unboxing and reboxing of Heroquest. And please go check out the Bardic video. It's absolutely hilarious and very well done. It's quite old. And of course, don't forget your broadsword. Anyway, till the next one, happy gaming.